Hello Final Fantasy VII fans, it's Ezra here and welcome back to another Final Fantasy VII videos, and on today's video I want to talk about FF7 Ever Crisis, the First Soldier, Chapter 2. The first episode of Chapter 2 got released on October 16 last week, and I thought that, well, I want to review the story, and also there is two brand new characters that this series has introduced, and there is some interesting theory for what's to come in the future of the episodes, so I think overall it's just a really exciting moment, for people who want things to see more Sephiroth. I was actually excited to see the connection between this game into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, especially from the first chapter, and I think on chapter 2 we get to see more of Sephiroth backstory, and we also get to see more Angeal this time around, and they try to develop Angeal as an actual, characters, which I like, and yeah, overall I think this episode 1 of chapter 2 is a really solid start, and I want to, I guess, just review it, and also share my theory for what's going to happen in the future, So for a bit of a recap here, for episode 1 of chapter 2, we get to see Sephiroth and Angeal basically got team up to do this mission in Robio, I think, which basically they have to search for 4 missing Shinra soldier, or I guess like infantryman, and they were actually followed by a cameraman named Bachman, I think, and he's basically working for Shinra, and he's like the PR team of Shinra, and he's there to capture Sephiroth in action, because Sephiroth is the hero, the so-called hero of Shinra, and right from the get-go, I absolutely love the chemistry between Sephiroth and Angeal, because like Sephiroth is literally acting like an asshole, He's basically like Cloud from the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, where he's a dickhead towards everybody, and that's what Sephiroth has been doing here throughout this first episode. I think this behavior is kind of makes sense, after what happens in the first chapter of, the first soldier, So I think the transition here from, Sephiroth just having a friend, like Glenn, Matt, and Lucia, and kind of like messed that up, in the last episodes, So it makes sense why he is very grumpy, and obviously Angeal here are just like a new soldier, so he was like super excited to do this first mission. And sometimes Angel's kind of annoys Sephiroth, on the mission, which is pretty funny in my opinion, But yeah, for the rest of the episodes, they were just like wandering around Robio, which is basically located on the southern tip of Wutai, and that's interesting because I think we never see Wutai yet, until part 3, which I kind of wait to see that how Wutai would look like in part 3, But yeah, I think this area are located near Wutai, so I think in the future episode we're gonna see several ninjas, that's going to fight Sephiroth and Angeal, But throughout this journey, there is some conversation about the event from the first chapter of the first soldier, where Sephiroth goes to this location, with Glenn, Matt, and Lucia, and at this point Glenn, Matt, and Lucia basically defects Shinra, so they built their own, I guess you could say, organization, which I'm assuming is is Avalanche, right? I don't think they mentioned the organization name here yet, but clearly is Avalanche, and Sephiroth basically I have to be reminded of the event of the first movie, first chapter, sorry, because Bachman and Angeal thinks that Glenn, Matt, and Lucia are traitors to Shinra, but obviously Sephiroth no, that wasn't the case, like Shinra is the villain, I think Sephiroth on his back of his mind, he realized that yes, Shinra is the one that basically responsible for that, and not not his friends from the first chapter, and basically he doesn't say anything to Angeal and Bachman, because he doesn't know what to say, because obviously Glenn, Matt, and Lucia is the closest friend that he has, and then he messed that up, so he is super pissed on himself, and I think it's a very interesting character traits for Sephiroth, so again it makes sense why he behaved like this, and throughout this journey, because they are searching for 4 missing, infantrymen, or like I guess like Shinra security officers, they managed to find 2 of them that basically already died, from a monster, or I guess like they were actually being attacked by someone, because apparently there's a wound that there's like a wound on their body, so like, oh, someone basically killed them, and it's not a monster, and basically they found the last victim, and it was revealed that this last person actually stills alive, and then her name was actually Alissa, and there is some interesting character about Alissa, but I'm gonna talk about that later, because after this we get to see another interesting character here, because it was revealed that the person that's been killing all these Shinra officers are a man named Masamune. That's right, Masamune. That's Sephiroth's sword's name, right? Well, this is an actual person named Masamune, and he is basically the best swordsmith that lived in Robio, and then he has the Masamune sword. And there's also this interesting moment where Sephiroth is attacking Masamune, and Sephiroth's sword literally broke, so the real Masamune is obviously the strongest sword ever, and I think sometimes in the future Sephiroth is going to take that sword, and the Masamune characters actually leave some interesting dialogue here, where he actually said that he's actually looking for a successor for the Masamune sword, because so far nobody are worthy enough of this sword, and we all know what's gonna happen. Sephiroth is gonna be the one who possesses that sword, and I am curious to see how Sephiroth will get that sword, So I think getting to the first theory here, with the Masamune characters, I think it's interesting that they actually make that into like an actual person here that is an actual swordsmith, like the best swordsmith in Robio, and then he created the Masamune sword. And I am curious to see how Sephiroth will get that sword, Is he going to prove himself to be a worthy successor of the Masamune sword? Or there's going to be some foul play, that was done by Shinra, maybe, that got Masamune killed, and that's how Sephiroth got his sword, maybe? Because I'm thinking about those two ways for Sephiroth to get that sword, But I think what's going to happen is that Sephiroth is going to prove himself to be worthy, whatever the task was, for getting this Masamune sword, So I think episode 2, or like I said, chapter 2 of the First Soldier here, are just going to further prove to us, that Sephiroth are not exactly the villain here, because again, he is a tragic character, because I think the true villain of Final Fantasy VII is Professor Hojo. He is a scumbag, and again, I wish he will die a slow and painful death. I still stand by that, especially after this episode here. And I think I won't be surprised if this entire chapter 2, Sephiroth is going to learn more about himself, and learn how to be friendly with Angeal, with Alissa, with Bachman, and basically just care for everybody else besides the mission, and try to move on from his past mistake. And eventually, it's going to be enough for Masamune to give the Masamune sword to Sephiroth, because he is a worthy successor. And it's going to be even more tragic because Sephiroth is going to use that sword as a weapon to destroy Nibelheim and destroy the rest of the world later on in part 3 now. And again, I don't want Sephiroth to have any redemption storyline. I want to make that obvious from the get-go here, I think he's still going to be a villain in the Final Fantasy VII trilogy, I think he's still going to die in part 3, but clearly the main villain is gonna be Hojo. Like the true, I guess not the main villain, but like the true villain of FF7 is Professor Hojo, and this leads me to the second theory of this episode here, where we get to see a new character named Alissa. And interestingly enough, when Alissa introduced herself, Sephiroth actually got a flashback of Lucretia, or in this case, Genova, because again, from the first chapter, Hojo gave a picture of Lucretia to Sephiroth, and he told Sephiroth that this is Genova, not Lucretia. As the player, we know that this woman is named Lucretia, but obviously Hojo just tells Sephiroth that, hey, this is your mother, her name is Genova, and from here, there is an interesting theory here, because people theorize that, oh, Alissa might be a clone of Lucretia, because she is so similar to Lucretia to the point that Sephiroth actually have a flashback of, Lucretia, his mother, And even Alissa herself actually has the exact same dialogue there, basically spell it out, where, oh, like, did I remind you of your dearest love, or maybe I remind you of your mother? Like, she literally said that in front of Sephiroth. So I think it's pretty clear to say that Alissa is actually a clone of Lucretia, because again, she looks very similar. Sephiroth actually has a flashback about Lucretia, and then Alissa herself actually said the dialogue that was actually verbatim, that basically spelled out to the player that, oh, I look like your mother, right? Like that's it, and it's just like, yeah, I think it's safe to say that she is, Lucretia's clone. And also interesting enough, from behind the scenes stuff that people have been found on Twitter, apparently Alissa and Lucretia actually share the same voice actors, especially I guess like the Japanese voice actress, so it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, that's the similarities is right there, so I think, and it does create this mystery to the characters, because like if this was Alissa, if Alissa was actually Lucretia's clone, then does that mean Hojo actually cloned Lucretia, and then, and I guess Hojo just trying to use Alissa to be like a spy to Sephiroth, because I'm pretty sure that Alissa, Sephiroth, and Angeal are going to get close together, and I feel like I think like she's gonna be revealed as the bad guy maybe in the future, because again, if this was indeed Lucretia's clone, then she was created by Professor Hojo, because like nobody else would like clone a guy or a girl just like that, and I feel like Hojo always have a bad motive here, and I don't exactly know what Hojo is trying to do here, maybe he's just trying to mess up Sephiroth's mind just to see how the Genova cell would evolve and work, maybe, or maybe just trying to make Sephiroth super powerful. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like I think it's gonna be an interesting, I think there's gonna be an interesting plot twist in the future, where the characters actually found out that, oh, like this is actually a clone for maybe for a previous scientist, maybe, or maybe Alissa is gonna be revealed to be a bad guy that's actually working for Professor Hojo because of this theory, that she's actually a clone of Lucretia, and I think that is an interesting story to tell, and I am really curious to see what's going to happen in the future episodes, because the episode pretty much ending where they actually split up, like where Sephiroth and Angeal try to recover the bodies of their fallen comrades, and that's how the episodes end, but I feel like this is gonna continue on the same location, which is Robio, and I think we're gonna see a bit more of the Masamune sword, and we're gonna see a bit more of Alissa's character, because like from the opening cutscene we see a lot, and I think Bachman, the cameraman, literally said that this event right here will change the core of history here, so something big will happen on this location, and it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna happen in the future here, because the opening cutscene is just like a teaser for what's to come in. But also there is an interesting side mission, or like I guess a side story for Sephiroth and Angeal here, because on the side story here, Sephiroth actually had a dream about his mother, and interestingly enough, the subtitle actually says Genova instead of Lucretia, because again, Sephiroth doesn't know her real name yet, so yeah, that is basically Sephiroth just basically longing for a mother's love, because he was imagining his mother to be this loving and caring for him and always be there for him, hugging him, making him a pumpkin soup, which is his favorite. And yeah, it just, this side story just makes me feel bad for Sephiroth in it, because he just wanted to be loved, man. He just wanted a mother that was there for him, because he never had that. All he has is Hojo. I don't even know if Sephiroth knows that Hojo was actually his father, I don't think it was ever mentioned before, but who knows, but certainly Hojo is essentially acting like a master or like a boss for Sephiroth, that he was just forced to obey, and there is also some interesting line about how Sephiroth knows that he was created by Shinra to be this false hero for the company, because at the end of the day, the company never cared for him, but he has to do it because like it's the only thing that he had on his life, which is again just a tragic story for Sephiroth here, and I'm gonna be really curious to see how they're going to handle Lucretia's story in part 3, because obviously Sephiroth is going to find out that the real name for his mother is not Genova but Lucretia, and I think it's pretty sure. I mean, it's pretty obvious here that Hojo is just like using the name of Genova to mess Sephiroth up, So because I'm assuming Hojo is wanted to see Sephiroth burn down, or just like getting super angry to the point that he used his power 100%, just to see how strong he was, because Hojo is insane, and yeah, and interestingly enough, on the scene itself, you can see the room itself, where Sephiroth and quote unquote Genova are talking here. It was purple, and obviously the color purple are related to Genova, because every single soldier was injected with the Genova cell. So I think this is like the Genova are just messing with Sephiroth's head, and then I think Genova might be able to, I guess, control Sephiroth, or I guess like at the very least manipulated Sephiroth to a degree later on in chapter 2, because we already see Genova are using Hojo's image, against Sephiroth, especially in the trailer of chapter 2 and on the opening cutscene of this chapter, so I think, yes, I think Genova will have a role here, that she's going to try and manipulate Sephiroth, and I guess to some extent Angeal, because not only Sephiroth has have this sad backstory, but also I guess Angeal, where I guess Angeal backstory was a bit more lighthearted, and a bit more bittersweet, because it was revealed that he's actually just becoming a soldier to help his parents. He has a loving parents, and we know that her mother appears in Crisis Core, but not his father, and apparently his father appeared here in Ever Crisis. So I think the assumption here is that Angel's dad are going to die in the future, and that eventually is going to break Angel's character, because like Angel was like super exciting and super giddy about doing the mission, like he was super talkative, but I think Angel's father's death are going to change him entirely as a person, and he becomes like the person that we know from Crisis Core. And eventually, again, on Crisis Core, the characterization of Angeal and Genesis are super weird, but I guess what I'm trying to say here, they're not going to make Angeal this weird character, but Angeal's personality will change, where he was talkative before, and then he's going to become quiet, kind of like Sephiroth, and I think, yeah, man, I can already see that Angel's gonna have this tragic story again in the future episodes, because I think his dad are going to die, at some point in the story, and that's going to change his character, And one last note, I wanted to make it clear for everybody here. I don't want Sephiroth to have a redemption storyline. I don't want that. I know people also said it in my previous video that, I don't want Sephiroth to have a redemption storyline. And like, yeah, I agree. I don't want Sephiroth to have a redemption either, because I think he is the villain, He is going to be ultimately the bad guy of Final Fantasy VII, even though that Hojo was actually the true villain. I still think there is a chance in part 3 where Sephiroth will help Cloud and his party members to defeat Genova and defeat Professor Hojo at the same time. I think that could happen, because like at the end of the day, at least from Ever Crisis storyline here, Hojo and Genova are the one who is manipulating Sephiroth, So I think it's fair, in my opinion, it's fair for Sephiroth to actually kill Genova and Professor Hojo, because these two are the most responsible for messing up, his life, especially Hojo, So I don't want them to just like do the exact same thing in the original game, where Hojo turns into Genova monster and you fight him and then that's it, that's the end of him, I don't want that. I want him to experience a slow and painful death, and I want to see Sephiroth actually the one who kills Hojo, because I think he deserves that, man. Like his life is messed up because of Professor Hojo, so that's why I wanted that to happen in part 3, Like some people disagree with that because they think that it ruins the story of Final Fantasy VII, but I disagree, because I feel like with this new backstory, I think it's fair for Sephiroth to actually has some impact on Hojo and Genova's storyline, and not just there in the background as the big villain, and yeah, there is more agency for Sephiroth this time around for becoming a villain, and I cannot wait to see what's gonna happen in the future episodes, man, because this is so exciting and I love it so much, It's pretty much the review, I guess, or like the theory for episode 1 of chapter 2 of First Soldier here. Like I said before, it's an interesting story, and I think I wanted to see more of it, I want to see more of Alissa, to see what her character will become in the future, Is she going to be a villain, because there is a potential there. And also, I think I'm also curious to see what's going to happen with the Masamune storyline, because again, I am curious to see how Sephiroth will get that sword, and I am curious to see what the story will be for Sephiroth, and I think the story will make us even more sympathize with Sephiroth, and yeah, I guess that's it for the video, guys. Let me know in the comment section below what do you guys think about this episode 1 of chapter 2 here, like I guess 2 questions for you guys, like what do you guys think about the Masamune characters, are you guys interested in this character, and what do you guys think, how do you guys think Sephiroth will get that Masamune sword, and the second question will be about Alissa, like do you guys think that Alissa was actually the clone of Lucretia, and what do you guys think Alissa's role will be in chapter 2 here, are you guys think that she's going to become a villain or she's going to be the victim of Hojo experiment, if she was actually a clone of Lucretia, so yeah, let me know your opinions in the comment section below, guys. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then make sure, guys, slash that subscribe and like button, guys, share the videos to show stuff, stay tuned for more videos in the future. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one then. Bye.